play both sides, but I couldn't find my own place. Called a problem child, cause I got too wild, but now that's how I'm getting paid. To continue on stage, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm falling.
We have Tim Kwan. Mr. Tim Kwan has been a member and advisor of the board of the Canadian Youth Champions since the founding and is currently serves as the chairman of the Monchung Foundation. A Western engineering graduate of the recipient of the LS Launchland Engineering Alumni Medal, he is a successful STEM entrepreneur who has contributed both business and nonprofit sectors.
Now I'd like to introduce Minister Tim Hodgson. He is the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources and a Member of Parliament for Markham Thornhill, elected in 2025. A graduate of Ivy Business School, he is the former chair of Hydro One and former CEO of Goldman Sachs Canada. He also served as an advisor for the Bank of Canada with extensive leadership and experience in both the public and private sectors. I'd like to welcome him up to the stage.
Last but not least, Haley Chai. She founded CYC in grade 8 as a virtual initiative during the COVID-19 pandemic, later growing it into a hybrid program with in-person events, competitions, and paid positions. It remains one of her favorite parts of high school experience. And she's now a first-year business school at Western University. The stage is yours.
Much for that very warm welcome, Tiffany and Hayden. And good afternoon, everyone. I am extremely honored to have the Minister Tim Hodgson and Tim Kwan be able to join us today, as they are representing the highest level of government, as well as being one of the most recognizable community leaders in Canada, joining us today. And of course, thank you to everyone here for joining us in the official launch of the CYC think tank. So today, we're going to be able to share with you what the think tank is, why it matters, and of course, how you can get involved. So obviously here we have two incredible role models in front of us, and we're really excited to hear a conversation between government and business. So first of all, I'd like to invite Tim Kwan, our mentor and leader who has made CYC possible over these past 6 years, to give his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Haley. The CYC, Canadian Youth Champions, was established in the beginning of COVID to encourage youth to learn and deploy STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and deploy them to solve some of the bigger problems that we face today. Topics used to include climate change, or how do you overcome the generation gaps. Highly interactive. Each participant forms part of a team and they compete. Some of the winners were able to go to Oxford University, UK, for a course all paid. Priceless experience. And these days there are 18 positions in the summer, paid positions, where they can, assuming some of them are high school students, to be able to also working, getting paid, and learn and earn university credits. Another thing that's happening in the last few years is that the running of CYC is now by the participants, by the youths. Brilliant, because they know what the group would like to do. So with that, they seem to accept me, that they're in such good hands that able to spend more time in affordable housing. Haley.
Thank you so much. Please give a warm round of applause for his opening remarks. Transitioning over recently at Davos, Prime Minister Carney's speech not only demonstrated Canada's leadership, but was culturally significant as it opens people's eyes. Canada, as a middle power country by population, has what the world needs: energy supply, critical minerals, and 2/3 of the world's fresh water. And this presents a tremendous opportunity for investment and global leadership. And today, we are honored to have the person responsible for natural resources and energy with us today, the Honorable Minister Tim Hodgson. So it is my honor to invite you to share a few words.
Thank you very much, Haley. And congratulations to what you're doing at CYC. To see the future leaders of the country here on a Sunday, not playing video games, not just hanging out and having a good time, but trying to learn about the world, trying to make a difference in the world, trying to get ready for those future leadership opportunities. I commend you, I applaud you. This is how we build community, this is how we build Canada strong. And a special thank you to you, Tim, for the efforts. I know organizations like this just don't happen. It takes current business leaders to donate their time, to donate their resources, to donate their wisdom to make organizations and days like this happen. And so thank you for what you're doing. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're at a very interesting time in the world. As the Prime Minister said in Davos, we can't control what else is going on in the world, but we can control what we do for ourselves. And what we need to do is build the strongest country we can, the most prosperous country we can. And you doing what you're doing today and learning about this is getting you ready to sit in chairs like this in the future. And I just applaud you for taking the time and the effort to come out and do this today. Because Canada will only be as good as our future leaders. So thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. And now with that, let's officially kick off the CYC think tank. The Canadian Youth Champions is a proud Canadian nonprofit, and for over 6 years, the CYC program has impacted tens of thousands of Canadians through STEAM entrepreneurship, community engagement, and government connection. But through this journey, we discovered a gap between community needs and real impact. And today, we're here to launch the CYC think tank to help bridge those gaps. So who here has heard of CELPIP, which is the English test? Okay, this proves my point perfectly. So basically, CELPIP is essentially an English test that was developed for Canadian contexts, styles of communication, and overall is very curated towards Canadians. So you're thinking, it's great that we have this English test that is designed specifically around Canadians to be used in Canada, which is what I thought as well. So imagine my surprise when I find out that a lot of services and initiatives in Canada today aren't actually even using this test designed for Canadians. Instead, they're using other English tests developed that are American or British, such as the TOEFL or IELTS, which is kind of strange because we have one right at our fingertips that is designed right for us. And this is where policy plays an extremely important role. By requiring immigration and universities, for example, to use CELPIP, it represents how Canada is able to use their own resources that are shaped for themselves and reflect their own standards, cultures, and values, and how policy is able to shape a better Canada. The CYC think tank is a research initiative that allows Canadians to have their input, opinions, priorities, and everything collected and brought up to the highest level of leadership in order to help influence policy, in order to build a better future. And we're hoping to be able to help empower that today with the help of everybody here. So let's move on to our second question. Why does the CYC think tank matter? Through this conversation, we'll explore why the think tank and public policy should matter to everybody in this room. So, Minister Tim Hodgson, I'd like to start off by asking you the first question. So, you are also the chair of Build Canada, and I was just hoping, could you share the scope of your work in Build Canada and what specific areas it covers and what your key priorities are right now?
Sure. So, what we all have to understand is we're at a difficult time in the world. There's great powers battling out in geopolitics, And countries like Canada can get caught in the crossfire. And the most specific example of that is the tariffs that have been imposed on Canada by other countries. Canada believes in free trade. Canada believes that in a free market we can compete and win, and Tim and other entrepreneurs in Canada are living proof of that we can do just fine if it's a level playing field. When people put tariffs on our country, it makes it harder, particularly for young people, to get jobs. So the Prime Minister has been clear that our objective, and it's being led through Build Canada, which I chair, is we need to attract $500 billion of investment into Canada, investing in new major projects. And there are things like ports and wind farms and new nuclear plants in Darlington, and new mines and new pipelines and new transmission lines. And when we're building those, we're creating good paying jobs, we're creating great careers, and we're creating options for ourselves so that other people can do what they do and the world can be a crazy place. But if we build here in Canada, as the Prime Minister says, we can give ourselves more than anyone can take away from us. So the Build Canada Committee is all about doing that. Building for ourselves. We can give ourselves more than anyone can take away from us. So we are focused on attracting investment to build and increasing our exports. So the other target we have is to grow our exports beyond the United States, to double our non-US exports. The more we can do that, the more prosperity we can create, the more jobs we'll have for all of you as you graduate from high school and community college and university. That's the focus of the Build Canada Committee.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. I believe like when when a bigger round of tariffs first got imposed, that affected basically every single person I know, and it was really important that Canadians were able to stick together and support local in order to help combat those issues. And then, Mr. Tim Kwan, I'd also like to ask you what you think needs to change in order for us to be able to build faster for Canada to progress.
Thank you. Well, you just heard from the Minister that self-sufficiency is what Build Canada is aiming at. I was trained as an engineer. I love to build. But to build affordable housing, there are lots of challenges. We keep working on that. That's my focus at the moment. And if we can provide thousands of affordable housing, coast to coast, that would be a self-sufficient situation. Thank you.
Thank you. And then moving on to my next question, which I'm asking both of you. Recently, I had to sign a lease for my new house next year in university. So I'm wondering what you guys think on whether or not we're building enough homes for the next generation, and what you think is the current biggest bottleneck or obstacle that we're facing right now in terms of that.
So as Tim Kwan said, building affordable homes is a challenge. One of the other things that Build Canada, the committee that I chair, is looking at new ways to build those affordable homes. We've launched a program called Build Canada Homes, which is targeted at affordable homes, and its goal is to get Canada to 500,000 new home starts every year. And the program is designed to focus on the affordable sector. So we're focusing on how do we work with communities like Markham, and we're working with RPD to reduce development charges, which are a big component of those costs, to drive down the cost of materials. So we're looking at doing more factory-built homes. We think we can take 30% of the material cost out of a home if we build in a manufactured way. And then if we work in partnership with developers like Tim's not-for-profit, we can build a pipeline of affordable home demand and match that up with some new factory capabilities to drive down costs. Tim's doing his part. I think he's got several thousand affordable homes here in Markham that he's put into the program. Our goal is to get there. We already have 14,000 homes, new affordable homes committed in Canada in the pipeline already, but we're going to get to the point where we're building 500,000 a year.
Well, because I'm not a minister, I know very little about energy and those big projects, pipeline, but I do know something about construction. So I can share a little bit more of the details with you, if I may. To build affordable housing, at this moment, I would say there are 3 points to remember. Number one, red tape. It's always there, it's still there, but we'll try to work through it. And the minister's been helping to reduce the red tape. Second one is financing. Easy to say, well, if you're going for a trip or you're planning your university education, you would figure out how much money do you need. So that's financing. But for affordable housing, it's a bit bigger scale. There are challenges. The last one is modern construction method, which the minister has alluded to. Some of the construction method we use at the site today, cutting the lumber, pouring concrete, are methods used centuries ago. So that we need to use more of the modular or total prefab. So why did I remember all these points? Because there's an acronym I want to share with you so you can remember by tomorrow morning. Red tape, R. Financing, F. Modern technique, M. RFM. Because I used to be a runner when I was your age. Run fast mile. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your first response to that question. So let me reiterate for everyone. It's red tape, financing, and modern technology, right? And I'm sure everyone has heard the housing market has made it very difficult for young people to find homes. And it's really, really great that you guys are able to address this extremely big problem that affects everybody. And I want to bring that back to why the think tank is important. We want to be able to target specific challenges, problems, and priorities that Canadians find that are big to Canadians right now, rather than other initiatives that aren't as pressing to Canadians. And so I want to move on to the next question. And I want to know specifically from you, how is the government reducing barriers to housing development right now? So like he mentioned previously, there's more red tape now more than ever. There's a lot of outdated construction methods. How is the government able to address a lot of these bottlenecks and barriers?
So there's a bunch of different things that we can do. We can get rid of some of the challenges as you go across the country. So right now, each province and even regions have different building codes. When you have different building codes, it's more expensive for somebody who's trying to do things at scale if they have to redesign a home for each different province in the country or even regions of the country. So the building codes in Southern Ontario can be different than the building codes in Northern Ontario. So we need to work on that. And that's something that the government is focused on. Another thing is there's a lot of provincial barriers. So for example, a carpenter who works in one province may not have the ability to work in another province. A plumber who's certified in one province may not be able to work in another province. An electrician who's certified in one province, maybe a drywaller. There's a whole set of skills. And if you think about it, maybe that's not so topical in a place like Toronto, but if you're in Ottawa, where half the people live on one side of the provincial border and half the people live on the other side of the provincial border, or if you're in the Maritimes where people need to go back and forth to find the closest jobs, or if you're really interested in building, you're an electrician here and you see that you can make $10 more an hour working in the oil sands, but your certifications here don't work there, that's a problem. So we're working right now to get the provinces to take away those barriers. And then the third thing with respect to financing, we're working with the cities to find ways to reduce the development charges. The development charges today are quite high. Markham has some of the higher development charges in the world, not in the world, in Canada, because it's growing so quickly. And so one of the things the government's going to do is focus on, the federal government is, if cities will build more affordable houses, we'll find ways to reduce those development charges.
I think that's really amazing. I know for translating accreditations across different provinces specifically, it also really is a really big deal, obviously. A lot of people here may be from the GTA or Toronto, where it's much easier to find business in the same area, but for other Canadians that live not in Toronto, which is a pretty big amount, it's really important that different certificates are flexible across different parts of Canada. And then moving on to Mr. Tim Kwan, as a leader in entrepreneurship, what role do you think that the private sector can play in accelerating the supply of housing?
Well, businesses or private sector always try to make things work within all the bylaws and regulations. We're so used to that. But with the help of, especially the federal government taking the leadership to simplify the building code that the minister just talked about, and mobility of workers, those are big steps that would get us into self-sufficiency, build Canada. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to move on to a more broader topic on community and being able to connect youth and seniors. And over the course of the last 6 years that we've run CYC, another key gap that we've identified is the gap between youth and seniors, since there's at least 2 generations between us and, let's say, our grandparents. And one of CYC's missions over all this time has been trying to close this gap by running a couple of different initiatives, such as our Wise Share initiative, as well as our senior tech classes, in order to build stronger connections across generations. And this is also where policy is extremely important. So, for example, in Singapore, there are housing policies that encourage young people to live with their parents rather than living by themselves. And this is created through incentives or discounts, which strengthens a lot of family support, reduces pressure on healthcare and paying hidden fees, as well as, of course, being able to build stronger communities where people are able to live in a unified manner rather than living by themselves and being more independent. So, Minister Tim Hodgson, I would like to ask you, would Canada ever consider policies like this, similar to how Singapore has these policies, and how do you think housing policy can better support intergenerational living between different generations?
That's a great question. One of I think the differences between Singapore and Canada is Singapore is a city-state. You could fit Singapore into the Toronto GTA 2 or 3 times. So we're having to deal with different lifestyles, from coast to coast to coast. So, but what you're saying is we have to, and the Build Canada Homes program has to anticipate there are many, many different styles of family living. When I was a kid, you wanted to get out of the house as quick as you wanted to get away from mom and dad as quick as you could. Today, I think there's a difference, and I think there's what I see is when you have multi-generations in the same family, you have tighter cohesion, you have more support, both for the young people who are growing up and have the benefits of not just parents but grandparents, but you also have grandparents who benefit from having the kids around. And I think when you actually look at it, we can learn a lot from the new generations of immigrants who are more used to living in multifamily homes, and there's more stability in those homes than there are in a lot of others. So I think that's something we should really look at.
Thank you so much. And then to Mr. Tim Kwan, I'm wondering, from a community and business perspective, how important is it to you that we design cities that keep families connected rather than the alternative?
Well, there's no question that cities should be living cities where young and old, diverse cultural background are all there. So, and sometimes by virtue of the project itself, the diversity is already built in there. And that is actually, to me, a relatively low-hanging fruit coming forward, as long as we make them affordable. Thank you.
Now that we've explored, obviously, that having communities is highly beneficial to being able to build properly, I'm curious, does this help you redirect your approach to building more homes and then instead focusing more on building better communities? And how are you able to balance this growth of quality of life, and all the different trade-offs that might come with kind of changing between choosing to build for community versus building housing?
So I think Tim hit on a really important point. A house has to be more than just a shelter over your head. It has to be part of a community and integrating you into a community. And I know when I went to Monchong and saw all the different services that are beside the people living in the community, making it easy to get out and be involved in the community, making it easy to do your shopping, to see your doctor, to see your dentist, to get your hair cut or your nails done, to see a lawyer, to see a dentist, a doctor, to have gathering places where you can meet your neighbors and socialize with your neighbors. That's all really, really important. And so as we think about the types of affordable homes we build, we can't sacrifice making sure the homes also cause people to connect to community. It's too easy to get isolated today, and certainly what we see is when people are connected to their community and they are connecting with their neighbors, they're healthier, they're happier, and they're more prosperous.
Thank you so much. And then, Mr. Tim Kwan, did you have any remarks that you'd also like to add, or any comments?
No? Good.
Okay, moving on to our second last question. First of all, I want to recognize the current government for being able to remove trade barriers between provinces, which is something I'll reach out on a little bit later. And so I want to thank you for being able to do that, eliminating those barriers effectively. And I was wondering if you could share a bit more on how this policy in removing trade barriers between provinces is able to impact Canadians for the better.
So as I was saying before, that to the extent there's a free flow of goods and a free flow of labor between provinces, that brings down the cost. So one of the things that we said, if we can remove all the trade barriers between provinces, it's the same as increasing our GDP by 7 or 8%. So it's like giving everybody a free 10% raise. And look, everybody would love to have 10% more to spend. I can give you some examples. Today, if you're a nurse and you're in Ontario and you wanted to go work in Alberta, you can't without taking a bunch more courses. We need to make it so a nurse can practice anywhere. Today, there are different rules on food. So if some food is prepared in one way in a province, you actually can't send it to another province. That just makes food more expensive. We have rules around dairy. We have rules around wine. We have rules around beer, which all make it, maybe beer and wine should be more expensive. I don't know. But we have ways that we could reduce all of those costs. And there are many, many examples of that. So the goal is to take those away and give everybody 10% more in their pockets every year. That's something that'll make a difference for affordability.
For sure, and especially since, like, when you look at it, there will be different parts of Canada that are better at producing specific things, and this strength should be to the benefit of everybody in Canada rather than just benefiting one specific area and then disadvantaging everywhere else. And just like put this into perspective, historically it's been more expensive to do businesses between provinces in Canada than it is to do with the United States, which is kind of crazy because everyone should be supporting local and being able to prioritize goods that come in from within our own country, and this creates generally a system where tax dollars it's actually more optimal for tax dollars to flow outside of Canada rather than staying within our own economy, which can be extremely detrimental, and again is a very clear example of why government policy matters. Now I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments. So is there anyone who would like to ask anything or anything that they feel they'd like to shed some light on?
I like to raise a concern about my business. I am the founder and CEO of Progenics Corporate Cryobank, and I started it in 2004. And right now, I'm the only one corporate bank processed and stored in Ontario. At the time, we have 5, at one time, but now only 1 left. The other 2 are bought by a few times, and now it's owned by Cooper Surgical. And they moved the lab and processing to Arizona. And this is not good for Canadian families. I just want to know if Mr. Tim Hodgson can do something about it.
I would like to give some background about PLR's company. So, actually, PLR is my only boss in my lifetime. I worked for one person in my life, and that was her. I was her CEO. So she owns a stem cell company, as claimed, and currently she's the only Canadian stem cell company, a corporate bank, yeah. Only one in Ontario, sorry. Yeah, that is processing and storage in Ontario, storage in Markham actually. So they are facing lots of challenges with US companies because the policy doesn't benefit Canadian companies. and that's where she's coming from. She's here today, hoping our top government will bring this attention that how to help Canadian business to compare with international companies, especially US, now that we so depend on them and then there's no way to win them. And one way sitting here an example. So I guess this is the question, right? Okay.
Thank you. One of the things we're trying to do is make it easier to grow businesses. So we've brought in a number of new tax incentives. So there's something called the super productivity deduction, which is, I'm sorry, I'm going to get tax wonky here, accelerated depreciation, which will create the lowest tax rate for any country in the G7. So for new investment, our tax rate is now 12.6%. That's by far the lowest. It's 400 basis points lower than in the US. So we're trying to make it more attractive for entrepreneurs like yourself to grow your business. The other thing we're doing is attracting more of the world's smart people to Canada. Sorry, somebody's calling me there. My wife, actually. We've set aside several $billions to attract new researchers. You've seen in other countries where they're attacking universities, they're attacking the R&D. Canada has said to people with PhDs who are working in the STEM area, if you come here, we'll make it easy for you to immigrate. We'll have different incentives for you to come here. And we're already seeing professors and researchers coming from the US, coming from Europe, where they're not feeling as welcome, where their freedom to do research is being constrained. So hopefully we'll have more people who want to come and work in the stem cell or biotech area. And you know, the US is kind of trying to throw a wrench in the world. Like, the way we are going to be successful is we export around the world. That's the way we become the most. If tariffs go up, that makes it harder for us to export. It's one of the reasons why our Prime Minister has been traveling around the world. He's signed 20 new trade deals in the last 12 months. That creates opportunities for us to export to other countries. The biggest initiative he's trying to do is to tie the TPP, which is the biggest trade area in Asia, with the EU, and we're the only country that's in both. So we would be the link between two of the largest trading groups in the world, and that would hopefully give us more opportunities to grow our business. But I'm happy to sit with you afterwards and hear about how I can help grow your business. I was an entrepreneur. I used to sit in a seat like that. I know what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. And if we can help you grow your business, that's what we want to do.
Thank you so much for that question, which is actually a really great segue into the third question that I presented, which is how can you guys get involved with the CYC think tank? And essentially what it does is it's able to connect businesses, grassroots, ordinary Canadians that policy is actually designed for, and bring it up to the highest level in order to influence policymakers such as the Honorable Tim Hodgson himself, so that people's voices can be heard. And the way that everybody else here is able to help is by being able to identify issues, promoting surveys, and supporting actual data collection. This is where we'll actually be able to collect the priorities, insights, opinions, and actual concerns of real Canadians and bring them up to the board for translating into policy. And then I'm really curious to hear from you specifically, how are we able to effectively translate these community insights into public policy and strengthen this engagement between ordinary citizens such as myself, everybody else here in the crowd, into effective policy that benefits Canadians?
The way you do it is you get involved. You join organizations like CYC. You have those discussions. You come to the constituency offices. You come to Ottawa and meet your MP. You go to the city hall and you meet with your ward council member and talk about what matters to you. I mean, I hear a lot of people complain that government is challenging, and I'm always reminded by what Winston Churchill said. Winston Churchill said, "Democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that have been tried." And I think that's something we have to keep in mind. Democracy is the form of government where you actually can have a say, where you can actually go and hold people like me accountable and say, this is what I care about, this is what I want to hear, and I have the power to vote. I have the power to vote for my local ward. I have the power to vote for my mayor. I have the power to vote for my MPP, who represents you in Ontario in Queen's Park, and you have the power to vote for your MP. And I can tell you, we listen. We get thousands of emails. We get people coming into my constituency office telling us what they think, and that's how democracy is going to work best, is if you stick up your hand and say, hey, I actually have something I want to talk to you about. It takes a little bit of effort, but I think about it every day. I have this ring, it represents, it says you're a member of Parliament, and I keep it on all the time, because whenever I'm thinking about what should I do, I kind of touch it and say, okay, what would the people of Markham want me to do? The answer is get involved. Find the way that feels good for you, whether it's joining CYC to have these sorts of discussions, whether it's being involved in your local youth political organizations, whether it's getting to know the candidates in your local ward election, getting to know the candidates for mayor, getting to know who the candidate is for your local provincial riding or your federal riding.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think it's really admirable that you're able to address the limitations within your role and how civic involvement and like ordinary people such as myself are able to help address those gaps by getting more involved, being able to hold people accountable and everything. So that brings us to the end of our Q&A, and I'd like to preview a little bit of the implementation and timeline of how the CYC think tank is going to be able to turn these ideas into action. So starting off with actual data collection, we'll be launching surveys in March and October, so this month, June, and October as well. And we're forecasting an estimated 10,000 responses from across Canada, coast to coast. And then finally, we're aiming to bring those insights directly to policymakers in June and December. And with that, the future of policy is able to shape, future of Canada is able to shape policy from youth today. And I'd like to thank you both for such an extremely insightful discussion and being able to be here for the official launch of the CYC think tank.
One, two, three.